While there is a world trend on the inclusion of persons with disability in this complex society, the rights of a disabled person in developing countries, particularly in India, are almost non existent, where the rights of a girl or a woman are also vulnerable. Women and girls with disability thus face twice the discrimination. Shanta Memorial Rehabilitation Center, a credible disabled persons organization (DPO) based in Orissa, India, along with Development Research Institute presents e-courses to increase knowledge on gender issues focusing on gender-based violence against women with disabilities, living independently and inclusion in the society from a human rights perspective. This web based course is titled Insidious Violence and Women with Disabilities. This academic endeavor was designed keeping in mind the COVID 19 restrictions and the shift of focus from classroom lectures to a virtual learning environment.
First of all, good morning to all the participants. I am Kuhu from Calcutta, and I'm also working in the field of disability rights, and especially in gender and disability with women with disabilities for a long time. And I'm really honored today to have the opportunity of chairing this session. So once again, welcome to all the participants. Topic of today's session is knowledge on issues around gender-based violence against disabled women within institutions and communities. We have Shampa from Kolkata. Shampa is an activist with more than 3 decades of experience in working for disability and gender rights. She is the founder of Shruti Disability Rights Center and serves as the Joint Secretary of National Platform for the Rights of Disabled. This is one of the India's largest membership-based cross-disability network. Shampa also, as I said, have a vast experience of working in disability rights, including the gender and disability for the women with disabilities. And I hope and I strongly believe that you will also enjoy her and learn many things from her deliberations today.
The speaker of this web course is eminent activist Shampa Sengupta from India, speaking on gender based violence on women with disabilities, lack of knowledge causing disempowerment.
Thank you, Kuhu, and thank you, Ashadi, uh, and thank you, Niluka, first, because it was really a very elaborate deliberation in the morning, which sort of set the tone of what I'm going to say now. And for me, though I work in the field, I'm not an academic. I think theory and practice, where we all try to see where the theory and practice meet. And I'll not go into details of what even CRPD says, what RPD Act says, because these are the areas we all know, we are aware of it, but how it is affecting us in real life, and those are the issues I'll try to talk a little bit about. Yeah, so as we know that knowledge is power, and this is something we all know that what Francis Bacon said 4 centuries ago, and I personally feel that the systematic, women, generally women and particularly women with disabilities are kept out of this education system of any kind of knowledge system is purposely because you don't want to have them the power, and because information is liberating, education is a premise of progress in every society, in every family. So why is it that in every data, wherever we go, whether it's India or world or any kind of country, we see that so few disabled women are getting the actually have access to education. It's purposely done, and will try to understand how it affects the whole ecosystem of women who are disabled. We start by where even the primary stakeholder, the disabled women themselves, sometimes do not realize that they are going through any kind of discrimination. We from our organization, jointly with Women Studies Research Center of Calcutta University, did a study, and when we started, when our researchers actually started interviewing disabled women, and when we have done 8 or 9 of them, so the researchers came back to me and said that, but none of the women are saying that they ever faced any kind of discrimination in their lives, either gender-based or disability-based. So this whole sense of not understanding what discrimination is, we actually had to reframe the question of the research, because the feeling and that they don't understand, they were not able to connect what they learn in theory and to apply to themselves, because these are all educated women. They were all graduates, they were all working with disability NGOs. So, and they were as we often say, that it's women with intellectual disabilities or learning disabilities will not be able to uh, understand the repercussions or abuse. But no, these were only women who are visually disabled or having locomotor disabilities. Even then, they didn't feel that discrimination is happening. So you actually have to break the question. So when you're going to even when we are trying to create knowledge, you have to try to break a survey question in a way so that this woman can understand. So for example, a person who was in a wheelchair, so we actually had to ask her. So I think at that point of time, it was about 10 years ago. So we asked her that, is her bank accessible? Can you go to the bank? Because you get a check from your office. So how do you operate your banking system? Like until and unless you cut down the questions, the whole discrimination, and neither disability related nor gender related. Again, so for a woman who faces discrimination within home, uh, for her also to realize that it is discrimination, it took very long for us to actually get that kind of information from her. So we sort of had to ask, so what is your is there any time set by your father when you have to come back home? So is it same with your brother? So that kind of, so you actually have to do micro sort of kind of question to get the kind of discrimination she faces as a woman. And forget about sexual violence. No one talked about sexual violence in this kind of study, because they probably don't feel confident about it. So it's usually the term learned helplessness is, it's like they know that they cannot change their or they feel they cannot, I'll not say no, but they feel that they cannot change the situation, and it's more like you accept it as a fate. ये तो होना ही है type of thing. So you don't want to, you can't change this situation, and so there is total denial. So we are all very happy this was something that was coming out from the research. When we are going to the field, when this was part of a research and action research, and now when we go to the field, so most of the, and I always use victims slash survivors. I don't really like, I know the feminist term is survivors right now, but I don't, I cannot endorse the survivor term always, particularly when you are working among women who are disabled, and the kind of trauma they go through to become, even to reach from a victim stage to survivor. the kind of range of services you require, the ranges of even ability to find, to access those kind of services is just not there in the society. So I always use victims slash survivors, because the whole systematic violence, the systematic discrimination never goes. Even if you are fighting in the court, even if you win a case, you just don't become a survivor. So that's why I always use this kind of term, and this are the terminologies. I think since this is most for a lot of the participants are actually academic people who are, so I think this, you can also try to understand what are the nuances of the terminology we use, not only in disability aspect, about from the feminist aspect. And so majority of the disabled women said they face abuse on a regular basis. But a FIR or a police complaint lodged only when there are other people who are knowing about it. It's not that she is taking in her own agency is going and lodging a complaint. It never happened. In so many years of experience, I've never seen any of our women who says that it's I who took the decision. It's always someone else who's actually insisting that there should be a complaint. And of course, in majority cases, a rape complaint is lodged when the girl or a woman is found pregnant by family members. That is something I think all of our experience, everyone have seen. Mainly it happens with girls and women with intellectual disabilities and hearing impairment, but with other disabilities also we found a similar kind of experiences. So until and unless there is something very, very serious happening, you just don't lodge a complaint. You don't even feel that there is a discrimination happening. So, I mean, lodging a complaint is a secondary step. So that is where, I mean, we have to start intervening. As Ashadi was mentioning just prior to my deliberation, we all know knowledge of disability is not compulsory in police training. A disability is not mandatory component in legal or any judiciary training. In some of the law colleges that we have access to, when we go and talk, they say it's not mandatory. It's an optional course. So very few among the lawyers actually take up the disability law. And even if they are doing it, it's more like they will do cases on other aspects of disability. So this intersection of the gender-based laws and disability-based laws, these are something which are totally missing even in their discourses. Disability is not a part of training of protection officers appointed through Domestic Violence Act, because we all know in India we have a Domestic Violence Act where a woman prior to going to police complaint, also prior to go to police, can have some kind of services from the protection officers. Now, this Domestic Violence Act does not have any component on disability, and that's a major concern area. And so the protection officers, we have had interaction with many protection officers, and they just don't feel it's important also to have a disability training. So the protection officers, at least I don't think we have done a study on it, but majority of the protection officers office where we visited were in the upper floor, so you don't have, even the making it accessible is also not something that anyone is thought of. And on the other hand, I think you might have already got some kind of since this is a like you already have some kind of exposure, the people who have come here, and you also had gone through many sessions prior to this. So you all know that there are in our country at present almost all the laws that talks about sexual violence or even sexual harassment have a component of disability in it. I mean, we got it after a lot of advocacy, a lot of changes that was happened in very last few years, last decade actually. So it's like, and in that, uh, it's very interesting because in those laws, the legal changes happened where special educators, sign language experts were given very specific role in, if you think of POCSO or Criminal Law Amendment Act, and it's not just one or two lines written about it. It's a very detailed role is chalked out, and but when we are training the special educators, the sign language experts, they are not given training on sexual violence, so they are not ready to actually help this kind of cases also. And I'll talk about some of the, we'll give some case studies to elaborate my point how and why this is not happening. I'd also like to talk about a research which we had been doing this past 2 months, which is of course not, I mean, the research report is not yet ready, but we did a very extensive research on with 20 disability organizations all across India. And there was like an elaborate questionnaire on about understanding of their understanding on gender and sexuality, the disability organizations understanding. So we were actually presenting the same the preliminary report, which is not yet final, just yesterday to the 20 organizations. And the first question that after presenting, the first question when we asked for a like, because now everything happens in a Zoom meeting, so in the breakout room for the question answer with the participants, the first thing, and in a very aggressive manner, and it's from a large DPO, the question was raised that why are we actually doing a research on intersection of gender and sexuality with disability groups? There are so many kinds of intersection. Why is gender important? So we don't feel as yet, even though changes have happened in the laws, changes are happening in the policies, the disability groups are also not ready to accept that gender is an important component, and without gender and sexuality understanding, it's very difficult to bring balance, or even to have for it's a term used by most of the service giving organization is beneficiaries. So for their beneficiaries to get any kind of justice, but that there is a very strong opposition even to and this is something very interesting I felt, and I thought I should share it, because 20 years ago when I did the first research on women with disabilities, I faced the same question: why are you making a separate, why is it important to do a separate research on women with disability? And as it is, there is so much discrimination. So men also face discrimination. Don't talk about it. And after 20 years, so it's like it's 2021 now, and my first research was in 2000. So it was like it was quite a shock for me, though I knew that this is there already in our sector, disability sector, but the aggressive way of questioning, I mean, I just thought that I'd share it here, that how the disability organizations is also, if I may use the word, is being blind. They're totally to the issue of gender, how we don't want to address the issue of gender. And so it's so if the society is not talking about it, if it's much more easy to actually put the blame on police, to blame on legal system, judiciary system, to everyone else than us. And but we need to understand whether we are also ready to take this challenge as a disability sector. And it was very interesting. I mean, of course, a study will come out, and it's still in the report is still in the preliminary stage. But I can tell you from this extensive questioning of this and this organizations, there some of them are very big organizations, some are small, and it's all across India, different kinds of disabilities they cater to, mostly service giving organizations. And like none of them thought that there need to be any kind, they need any kind of knowledge of LGBTQI issues, because they said it is not our issue. There is not a single person who belongs to LGBTQI community within our beneficiaries. So if you are catering to 2,000 disabled person, to someone who's actually catering to 30,000 disabled person in a year, so each and every single organization said that we don't have anyone. So this is a kind of understanding of gender of the whole of the whole cohort of 20 organizations, and this is something. These are also eye-opening. So you just are sweeping away a large section of people, and so everyone, if you ask, if do you also work with women's rights? Yes, if there is a case coming, we'll look into it. So it's something very ad hoc kind of understanding of the disability sector also. And as a result, of course, special educators course and these courses are we have to abide by RCI rules, Rehabilitation Council of India rules. So some of us have already written to Rehabilitation Council of India that since there is so much of such a big role given in POCSO and Criminal Law Amendment Act to special educators, please include this in within syllabus. But I think it's also, and RCI is being RCI, they'll take their time to, if at all they want to include. That is something we have to wait for. But I think even in general, this is the attitude, general attitude of disability sector also. I'll go to some case studies and which shows why information and knowledge, lack of knowledge throughout the ecosystem of where you go for accessing justice is affects all of us. This was a young girl raped by a neighbor in a Delhi slum. A complaint was lodged. She was found in a pool of blood by some other neighbor, and so it became quite a huge issue. The news came out, and the media came, and so the police took up the case in very earnestly. They were looking at the case, because I met the police officer personally. I was in Delhi at that point of time. So when we went there and we actually talked to the police, the lady officer, she was very empathetic. I mean, if I may use a word for a police officer, she was really trying to help. She was not sympathetic. She was actually trying to help the girl. And she was the officer. And then she says that I've called the sign language interpreter because she's not speaking at all. And I need her to say what happened, who did this. The girl was not having any hearing impairments. She was unable to speak because she had intellectual disabilities. Now, how do a police officer even understand the reason of this girl's not inability to speak? This is not part of her forget about training. This is something this girl actually needed as support person. Should have been a special educator. She didn't understand the difference, and there's no point in blaming the lady police officer. Thing is, the knowledge of disability in general in our society is so little that for someone to understand that so, so it's like even the common term, no, like we use deaf and dumb is such a commonly used term. It's because of the common people's understanding that someone who cannot hear will not speak. That there can be so many other reasons who is for your inability to speak. So a lot of people, when I do trainings on RPD Act or any workshop on RPD Act, they ask me why is there are different categories of hearing impairment is different and speech impairment is different. So they're very confused. So common people do not understand that. And in general, the information was not with her. Now, this girl, if I say that her parents, they lived in a Delhi slum and they didn't have a disability certificate. So that is also something which we need to relate everything. I mean, you just cannot look into a rape case as a rape case when it's happening to a girl or a woman who's disabled. You need to connect the dots, because if you do not connect the dots, because she didn't have a disability certificate. So at least if there was a disability certificate, the father said I have taken her to Nimhans, sorry, not Nimhans, IBAS, the government hospital, mental hospital, uh, quite a few times because she used to had epileptic fit. And so, but they never, I asked her ki koi certificate milega. So the doctors never told me that how to apply for a certificate. They never gave her any certificate. And this whole system is like this. So that's why I always say it's even if you lodge a case, even if you have a empathetic police officer who looks into your case with empathy, even if you might have a very good judge who will write a good judgment, but the whole systematic violence that's happening. This girl never went to school, so she didn't have any disability certificate. So even when you are asking for compensation, because compensation is getting compensation is also another a way of asking for justice. And so you can't write that she is disabled and she needs to get more compensation because of this extra vulnerability, but you don't have certificate, you cannot demand that. So there are many kind of loopholes. This whole systematic violence that's happening throughout the life of this young girl. So even if she gets a good judgment in court, even if this man, the neighbor who's raped her, gets convicted and gets jail or whatever, her life doesn't change at all. That I mean, the trauma that takes place because of rape, there might be some kind of extra, because people like us, activists, got involved. She might get more inputs for getting mental health support or vocational connecting her to some vocational rehabilitation center. But in general, the circle of violence is actually always there in her life. So it took, I mean, it took again many more visits to IVAS and personal phone calls to IVAS director so that she gets a certificate. This whole process becomes so difficult. So, and of course, we activists can never reach each and every single case because there are so many cases happening. This is just one of them. We come to case study 2 here, where a woman, this happened in Kolkata, a woman with orthopedic disability. And I'm talking about most of the cases because I'm a person who lives in an urban area. I live in a big city, and most of the cases I'm talking about are, I mean, though I've followed up many cases of violence in the rural areas also, I'll talk about cases today of happening in metro cities, in capital city of India. And this is something also an eye-opening for us because we always feel that in the problems are more in, I mean, in a rural area, but what is that actually the situation in city, we don't know. I mean, this is something really eye-opening if you think of these cases. A woman with orthopedic disability faces domestic violence, and here it's important to give her this lady's background. This lady actually is completed her post graduation from a very reputed university of Kolkata. uh, she's doing a job in a PSU, and so her family thought that she, of course, in our country, every woman have to get married to. So family thought marriage is important. So through a matrimonial ad in the newspaper where her disability was revealed, that she wears, she's an amputee, so that she's got a false leg, and everything was revealed in the ad. She got married. Only after a few months of marriage, she realized this man actually married her because she's got a government job. So he kept on asking money from her. And I mean, that was the main reason of violence, more of economic violence, where he kept on asking for checks. And so when, of course, things go at an extreme kind of difficult situation, then only women go and lodge a complaint. So when after the child was born and the son was a few years old, then this man actually wanted her to throw her away from her house. The house was in her name, and so was insisting that she writes down those papers to him, so that he can throw her away with her son. So she took the help of a lawyer, and complaint with police was lodged. In the FIR drafted by the lawyer, her disability was not mentioned. When I asked the lawyer, so why didn't you mention it? And of course, the lawyer was not aware of RPD Act, or I mean, he never heard of the law of RPD, so forget about provisions on women with disabilities. Uh, but what is important is here, I mean, a lot of feminist activists tells us, but the domestic violence is for every woman. Why do you need a separate section on domestic violence in this act? Why do you want to change it? But when I'm trying to explain the kind of, so because I also asked her that in what circumstances did you write so much, since you were the earning member of the family, a main breadwinner of the family. Why is it that you have given all your money to your husband? Like now that he's insisting for the flat also, so why is it that, how did it, not why, but how did it happen? So she told me, but there are times when I'm at home, I have to take rest. So my leg, I mean, this amputated leg, I mean, I just take it off and take rest, or I'm sitting in the floor sometimes doing some puja or something. And those are the times my husband comes and move away my uh, aid which I need to work or need help, and then he makes me sign all these checks and all the papers. So trying to, I mean, if you don't understand the nuances of how this kind of the whole situation is actually the violence is, of course, it's a gender-based violence, but it's also a disability-based violence. If you don't understand the whole scenario, the lawyer didn't understand that. So uh, when they lodged a complaint with police, police didn't understand that. And obviously, since it's not in the initial FIR, how much you go to the court and you want to change it, it will be difficult for us to convince the judge about the kind of violence she faced because of her disability. uh, so we also tried to approach the protection officer who we thought might help her in her case, because she needed some kind of guidance. And uh, The protection officer, of course, is totally unaware of any kind of disability related laws or what kind of support this lady might need. And this whole total understanding of total, it's not just lack of knowledge, it's complete unawareness of like anything related to disability. Because when we went to the protection offices, again, she was a very nice lady and all that, but then her whole understanding of disability is like, I have done a case where the child was disabled, the mother was being beaten up, it's a whole thing is like disability always have to be someone who's with disabilities always have to be a child. And this is something, a very common understanding in the society, which this lady also believed in. So it becomes extremely difficult to get proper kind of guidance when you are actually seeking justice because of this lack of knowledge. This is again a case study which happened few years ago in a mental hospital mental hospital in Kolkata. So inmate of a mental hospital was sexually abused, and when we went there, two of us went there to intervene to find out what happened. And it's something very interesting, because when we talk to again victim slash survivors of such violence, when we directly talk to activists like us, we never find it difficult to understand what she's saying, because they always give you exact information. But because of the whole system is like that, where people don't want to even understand what they are saying, they always say that it's we are not getting what she's saying. So they say so. And in this particular case, we were like, then we went to the super's room, and super was saying, but I need men to run this hospital. So if this case is lodged against this man, then there will be no man who will coming and come to work in my hospital. This girl is actually hypersexual. She hugs all men. So even I am so nervous to go to her ward, because she might come and hug me. And this was coming from a doctor who's in charge of a mental hospital. So this is something which makes you think that this because a person with medical background would have anyway should have some kind of knowledge or information about sexuality of sexual life of a person with disability. And the way he talked, the total victim blaming part of him was like, it even if he was not using his medical knowledge, he was actually trying to use the societal understanding of either women are hypersexual or they are asexual. This is something which we get in the commonly in the society. And this is again, of course, I mean, this is a case which we used for when we went to the Verma committee to change criminal law amendment, because we were very shocked, because this person said this. And this case studies, all these case studies details are available. And so, I mean, if you really want to, this case study was written in a very detailed manner. So, and this is not only a medical officer, doctor who is saying this. This hypersexuality thing is, we have found when we go to the field, we found it in by policemen, and at different levels. It's always the victim blaming when this kind of rape happens. It's like what Niluka was also saying in her deliberations that the police said that anyway you didn't get sex, so at least through this you got something. But this is something very common. We found this kind of understanding we found very common when we go to lodge a complaint with a so the police officer might say that in a young girl with hearing impairments got raped. It was a gang rape case, and the police officer said, "We help you with all kinds of cases, but don't get involved in this particular one because you all know." I mean, the police was trying to telling us, the women activists, that you know that she's a deaf girl. No, it is she who instigated, and it cannot happen that people, the men who raped her, she actually lured both men to have sex with her at the same time. And she was a young girl of 16 who actually lost her way. And this was a comment made by the police officer. So this is something the common understanding of society reflects when all the service givers also whom we approach for help. This is of course a case again from West Bengal, but not from Kolkata. And this girl was raped within school bus. They have a school bus she actually goes to a mainstream school where the school bus helper, the person who helps in the school, actually raped her. And we have district social welfare officers who take charge of such cases, particularly when a POXO case happens. And she called the special educator to because POXO gives a there is a large section on POXO, both even the current, the amended POXO also very clearly says what role a support person can play. And the support person can be a special educator for this young girl. When she contacted the district welfare officers, actually contacted special educators, but special educators were reluctant. They said, we don't know what the law said. And anyway, I mean, I'm a teacher, so I don't want to get involved in a court case where I have to go to police, go to the court, and we all know that this case is, even though POXO is supposed to be a fast track court, it takes time. So I have to go to the court for so many days, so many months, whole year. I don't want to do it. And this is something you cannot also give pressurize someone to help as a support person. The person have to come forward on his or her own, because POXO is again gender neutral act. So even if there is sexual violence on a disabled boy, he also can take help of support person. And then it's very clearly said in POXO that male, female, who can be the support person. It's very interesting. It's very important also because POXO is an act that gives very clearly that every district of the country need to keep a list of special educators, the people who can work as support person, a psychologist, sign language experts. But when you're doing that, you have made that changes in the law, but of course implementation is not done. But whether the special educators who actually come in the field to teach children with disabilities, whether they are given that orientation is a big question. They hardly have that kind of orientation. I mean, forget about understanding of sexual violence or what kind of counseling at that point the child needs. You also need some kind of orientation to help and go through the whole court case. That kind of orientation is usually not there, and you cannot blame. Again, I don't want to blame anyone, because if you think of, suppose today I decide to become a teacher and I do a B.Ed course and I want to teach in school, that's fine. I mean, you cannot like put pressure on me to become an activist and help sexual violence victim. So that is something you can't do it. So why are we also expecting that every special educator will be interested in it? If it's not expected of a general school teacher, it's only few teachers take up this kind of challenges. If you think of general teachers, so why are we expecting this also? And there are a lot of questions. But POXO rules and laws particularly says how much money should be allotted for support persons, because it's not just transport. I mean, this person also needs some kind of monetary financial help to take this kind of job, and who will pay it? The whole state rules are not state rules, this is general rules all over India, and this is this thing. But these are again few special educators and few sign language experts whom we interviewed also, they said that but that money also doesn't come to us, and it's a very again a circular process. So suppose I give a, why is it expected that because when in a rape case, it's usually a PP, the public prosecutor is supposed to get money from the state. He's it's so the lawyer if the lawyer is getting money for his work, this support person should also get that similar kind of remuneration for his or her service, and that is also is not usually paid in time. So, and there are a lot of miscommunications. We just did a during pandemic period only, we did a training on disability with all the district social welfare officers, and they are also like there's a lot of what I personally felt in those two interactions, the training that we had was there's a lot of miscommunication. They do not know how exactly to approach special educators, what is the process, and again I'd say the disability sector is also doesn't know the special schools, the people who run special schools doesn't know that this is also a part of their work. This can be part of their work, and how to work and facilitate same. These are not something, I mean, there is a lot of lack of coordination uh, between the two departments, and this is something that we felt uh, both in the field work and during the training of social welfare officers. Since we found that there had been no data, like every time I talk about a case, it's just it's everything. It's an anecdotal evidence. There is no data because there's no record. The National Crime Records Bureau is not keeping any information. In last quarter of 2020, I filed a few RTIs where I asked mm, different departments about data on same. So I mean, I have got a large number of letters now. So every department was sending my RTI to some other department saying, we don't keep this data, we don't keep this data. So it is not our work. So police is saying it's not our work. Everyone is saying, the women and child department saying this is not our work. So it's not work of anyone, it's not their job. Everyone is saying, so information data is not there. So
Shampa,
yeah,
we
sorry,
have to wind up.
yeah, this is the last slide.
Session.
This is the last slide. Yeah. So I mean, this is in a very small way from our organization. We started a new launched a new website. It's you'll get the web link, all of you. So we are trying to get as much information in there, and it's of course it will be like we keep on adding every month. New information is getting added, and so this is something, a very small way of creating some kind of knowledge resource where we can work together, and I hope some of you will find this pathway to justice.com a little useful for your work. And thanks, Ashadi. This is the last slide, and I thought it made some kind of understanding, because I tried to give some field experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Shampa. That was really very, enlightening, and I think especially the case studies has shown us that how poorly the cases of violence on women with disabilities are handled till date. When we have really few very strong and positive legislations in our country, but and in the region also in other countries. Thank you very much. I think the participant has really found it very useful. There is only one question, one from Sridhar and one from Marispor, which is similar, like they want the research study. Is that Marisport and Sridhar, is that for Shampa, or are you asking that for both the speakers?
Ma'am, both from both speakers, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would request Shampa and Niluka to take note of it, and please help them by sending or the means that this institute has decided how to disseminate the informations and all. So Sridhar and Marisput, you please connect with Ashadi and Nondini, and they will be able to help you to get the information that you are looking for. I think we have come to the end of the session of today. Ashadi, any comments from you before we end?
There is one question from Marisport also.
Yeah.
On victim presentation.
Yeah.
If Shampa and Niluka can look at it. And also, Sridhar wanted that some research experience, would you suggest any specific methodology of study for new researchers? So there were two questions that needed to be answered. Niluka, can you take the first one on for new researchers and methodology?
Yeah, I'm just trying to locate it on the. So it says, from your experience of research, would you suggest any specific methodology of study for new researchers? Sridhar, actually, it's a good question. There is a new framework. It's called the Human Rights Based Framework for Disability Research. It's based on the principles of the CRPD. That methodology came up in a research paper only last year in 2020, and it's looking at aspects like participation, representation, accountability, and other such aspects of research, but within the framework of the CRPD. So I think another thing I can do is to send the link to that as well. That particular academic paper is something that I have started to use actively in my own research, and I'd be happy to share it with you all as well.
Yeah, that's really good. I think Marisports was a comment, wasn't not a question really, but still, Shampa, if you just quickly can.
Victim precipitation is very common in women with disability cases, especially secondary victimization is very high level. Do you agree with what he's saying?
Yeah, secondary victimization actually happens to, I think, all women when we complain about violence, and of course it's much more when because of the nature of violence is also, it's mostly happening within institution, within a school bus, like I mean, at least so it's very easy to say that it is girls or the woman's fault. So it's something, it happens a lot, and again, to fight against a secondary violence also is again a very huge task. So that is a big problem for all of us. And I think there is not much research work or not much work on how victim blaming happens. And though we get cases, we have seen some work on how women are thought of hypersexual but it's not much research on this particular area. That's my personal understanding. Yes.
Nandini, you want to
Can
say
I
more?
add? Can
Yeah.
I just add a little bit?
Yeah, Nandini, please.
I mean, from a research
Quickly.
perspective, if you see, when we are examining violence against women, disabled women, what becomes very important here is the question of not, the fact that there are different kinds of violence, right? So we know the entire gamut of violence that disabled women might face. But also, very important is the sites of violence, because the sites of violence become very important. It may be the family that is the site, but family may be the space, but the perpetrator might be someone else. Similarly, it could be the institutions that are perpetrating violence, and it could be the state. So, there are different layers to this. In a single study, probably it's very difficult to address all of these aspects. So as researchers, you might need to select particular aspects of this and address it in one study, and then you can move on to addressing the others, maybe if you are still willing and capable of addressing it in the other kind of researches. So that would be the way in which you can do. The human rights perspective, as Niluka said, is very, very good guide itself to how to research lives of disabled people. Along with that, you can also examine any of the more sensitive ways of doing research. So also there are these emancipatory models of research, and you can also use these emancipatory models to see how through the process of research itself, there can be an emancipation not only of the woman with disability, but also of the people and the structures which are involved in the entire study and in the entire process of access to justice. I think we had a very good session today in terms of looking at these mechanisms.
Right. Thank you, Nandini. And I think, when we do those research separately, and then probably, we can really connect the different aspects, and which can give us a more information and insight of, how to address those issues, how to address those violence at different spaces or different with different perspective, to kind of come to the way forward to deal with those issues. We will now end with the session, today's session.
No, just a minute, Kuhu. I think we all need to switch on your videos for the documentation.
Right.
One is that. And I would like to have 5 minutes with the participants afterwards.
So we leave, or what? How do you do that?
Rina will take the photo and she'll let you know.
Okay.
Everybody, please switch on your videos. I would like to thank Shampa, Niluka, and Kuhu for a wonderful session today. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Shampa.
For the participants, I just had a quick word about the poster presentation once again, which is scheduled for Monday, right? The poster presentation is to be on Monday. And for the poster presentation, I just want to know whether you all have more or less understood what is expected from the poster presentation. If there is anyone who has any doubt about how to do it, please unmute yourself and just let me know, and I can explain once more.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, ma'am, if you could tell
explain.
me,
Please.
tell us again, that would be great.
Okay, so what you are doing here is in the last, in the 8 days of the course, you are learning about different forms of violence against women with disabilities, right? Very insidious forms of violence. Now, insidious forms, as I said on the first day, and we have been talking about it, is something that is not very visible. It's not there in your face for us to see that it is there. But despite that, our aim is to promote and ensure inclusion of women with disabilities within the community. So if we are to do that, we want you to make a presentation, and you can select, say, any one form of this violence, and you can talk about how that form of violence can be countered to enable inclusion of women with disabilities within the community. So your poster presentation basically has to look at the form of violence, the spaces, and then give us an idea about how you think this can be countered, this can be negated, and to promote inclusion of women with disabilities within the communities. So that is what the entire presentation is to be about, and that you have 5 minutes, each of you have 5 minutes to do it in. Is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Does anybody else have any doubt? Then please, I'm here today, and I'll try to be there tomorrow again to clarify.
And ma'am, we have to make the like poster, like we can show it through the PPT, right?
Right.
Thank you.
You can show it through the PPT. It can be just an oral presentation if you would like. If you make a drawing or something, you can put it on the screen and elaborate on it. So your creativity is up to you, how creative you can be in the poster presentation.
Ma'am, it will be
Sridhar,
one slide? It will be just one slide?
it depends on you, absolutely. You have 5 minutes. So
Okay.
in that 5 minutes, it can be one slide, it can be 2 slides, it can be just an oral presentation. Yeah, Sridhar.
Yeah, that's me. I made that question.
Okay.
Like you mentioned, we talk about a single form of violence. Can we talk about violence and disability in general as well in the presentation?
If you talk about it in a too generic manner, then it is difficult to find the solution, or to explain how you're going to address it, right? So that is why I'm trying to make it a little bit specific, because if you keep it generic, because there cannot be one particular solution to address all forms of violence, or to ensure inclusion in all realms of society. So a generic thing will kind of not serve the purpose.
Okay.
Ma'am, this is Maris here, ma'am.
Yeah, Maris.
Ma'am, actually, I would like to know, actually, it's not only generic. Actually, I have chosen an area for some new addition in the school or curriculum. So for that, I have to go with little general, but my analysis would be something typical, which is need of the hour. So can I go with that?
Yes. See, because again, as I said, the focus might be different. So suppose I am aiming at a community level intervention, then the focus is of a certain kind. But for you, because you are looking at a course, say, it's a curriculum level intervention, right? So there the focus would be a little different. So that is why I'm saying you select a particular thing and then you treat it as you wish. And that is your creativity.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. And timing would be the same, ma'am, 9:30 to...
Yes, 9:30 to 11:30 for the presentation. Each person will get 5 minutes. So you are about, say, 22 participants. So 22 into 5 would be what?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
110 minutes. And we have a 120-minute session, right?
We have got 11 students like who are ready to
Why
participate.
everybody is not participating in the
We would
poster?
encourage them to participate, yes. Like if anybody else want to drop their name, they are free to do so.
I'm actually a bit confused because that poster which says that those who are having option, but in the this one sessions it has been told that it is mandatory, so that's why a bit confusing.
I would say it is mandatory because then it gives us an idea about how much of the course you have absorbed.
Sure.
It also gives us a opportunity to
Yeah.
improve on it the next time we do
Sure.
it.
Sure, ma'am,
Also,
sure.
you know, with the reading materials, if there is anything additional we want to add, because the Dropbox will be there for the next 1.5 months available to you, right? So I would encourage all of you to join. You can do it in English, in Hindi, whichever language you are comfortable in, and whatever format you are comfortable in. But please come forward and do it, because that is also something that tells us about how you have learned from the course.
Ma'am, is there a template which you all have planned which could be used, or we can just go about designing our own templates?
Yes, you can do your own template. We wouldn't want to hedge you in, no? We want you to think very differently.
Sure.
So, ma'am, the topic and the disability we can choose as per our understanding, right, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Yeah, thank
you. Is that fine then? Shall we all log out? We'll meet again tomorrow, 9:30 in the morning.
Thank you.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, all of you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Nandini, will you stay for 2 minutes?
Yeah, I am here, Ashadi. I am here.
So, ma'am, can I log out?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, Amresh, you can. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can I request the other participants, please, to log out? Thank you.
Reena, please don't log out, otherwise we'll all get logged out.
Yeah, Shadi.
No, this is about Rebecca's another letter that she had sent to me and to Jija. One was that finishing of that thing that is not is still around, but she wanted us also to apply for another project. And I still haven't consulted anyone because I was thinking through it. It is something to do with the panchayats and development plans. One thing is that the government of India doesn't like us to work on panchayats, but you can look at it from the point of disability and development plans. So I was trying to work out how to see how, I can understand that we can hold meetings with the disabled people as we are doing now. But in that, how do we, and we could have IC material or to develop a development plan which persons with disability would want at the grassroots level. But for that, we would need some input from not only persons with disabilities, but also maybe from the panchayat who are there. Because I know in Chhattisgarh, they had made, I don't know if the elections have taken place, but the panchayat manual has been changed. And they are going now to have one person with disability in each panchayat. So that means 11,000 members from Chhattisgarh who are disabled at all three levels, which includes at the level of the panchayat, then the next at the panchayat samiti and the Zilla Parishad, and male and female.
Okay.
Now, that is a good way of doing it, because the meetings of the development plan take place at the Gram Sabha.
Yeah.
So at the Gram Sabha means every villager is there, including women with disabilities and those the whole population has to be there. But unfortunately, in COVID, this is also linked a little to COVID, is that the Gram Sabhas are really not meeting. So
Right.
people are
Right.
just taking from 5-6 people getting together and making the plans and putting it forward. Or I asked in Andhra, they said they're going to everyone's house and getting their signature. So that is how it's happening now. Now, how to develop a plan where, the booklet is okay, that we can have a development plan which can go for all India panchayats. But what kind of advocacy can we do?
I was
And how
thinking,
do we do
Ashadi,
what
it
level?
is difficult to peg it at the GP level. I think it is better if we can say we will intervene at the block level.
That is the Panchayat Samiti, or it is called in every different state is called different.
Yeah, so whatever at the block level, because I am thinking that at the block level, then we can encourage these small groups of women with disabilities to go and meet the decision makers, the social welfare people, the BDO himself or herself, and try to then put in some at least proactive, like the bus stands. Can it be made accessible? Can it be made safe? Can there be a toilet, accessible toilet in the video complex itself? So those kind of very concrete things, if they can advocate for and get done.
Now, how will we as a group do it? That is the problem. The problem is that with COVID, things are still not open, and I don't think we have the capacity to work at the block level. The only thing.
But also, Ashadi, isn't it contradictory for Rebecca to say, on one hand, you cannot have in-person training, and on the other hand, promote a project like this, which has to be an in-person level intervention?
No, what I was thinking, that we can have consultations as we're doing now under this project, and what we did with Women Enable, that you have consultation and develop a kind of plan under which what are the issues that women with disability face, so that whether you are in Karnataka, you can pick and choose what you face. If you are at Haryana, you pick and choose what you face.
Right.
And that plan which is there, we can then promote it through DPOs to see what can be done at the panchayat level. Because we go beyond DPOs, because it has to be online. We cannot go to the field. That is the only thing.
But then, Ashadi, we have to do a kind of first a training of trainers.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. But I think that is the only level we can go up to where DPOs are concerned. So you have one level of consultations, and if we can get from the stage, from the DPOs, to promote some women with disabilities who have joined panchayats, if they can join the meeting, that will be good. Because or they have stood up for election. Like we have one in Odisha, she stood up for election, though she didn't join. She couldn't get elected. So, there are some people. Now the Chhattisgarh government says that you can stand for elections even if you don't have the mandatory literacy level, which is good for women. And secondly, they have said if you don't get elected, every space that is left for disabled people, they will be nominated. Okay. So they will see to it that there is a disabled person.
Do you know Mr. Dilip Banerjee?
No.
Dilip, I think he was working with the panchayat systems in Chhattisgarh. I can try to get in touch with him to find out whether, to what extent this has been implemented.
I know that they have put it in the panchayat, the amendment, and they were saying that in the next elections, which are the municipal election, they would use it. But I'm not sure that it has been utilized, or it has been implemented at all. But it would be good if Dilip and you and I can discuss as to how to make that project, because the last stage is already written and I haven't got around to it. But I will finish all the final things and see how we can include what we should include.
I think what we can do is at the first, we can say we'll do zonal consultations, which will be online. So we can do 5 or 6 zonal consultations.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying north, south, east, west, central, and the northeast.
Right.
So 6 zonal consultations to identify the zonal issues. And then we can, from these consultations, pick up, say, two from each zone, people who will be possibly trainers. So then we can do a training of trainers kind of a thing. And that could be a in-person training, I don't know.
But
how long will the project be for, Ashadi?
1 year. 1 year.
1 year.
The money also, it's only $20,000.
Okay,
so 1
okay.
year only. But since it's going to be online mostly, except for personal, I don't think someone will coordinate. And
so we can do that. Then we can do the training of trainers, and then we can set out the agenda state-wise, and then they go and they try to implement it. And in the training of trainers, we do advocacy also.
But how much will be our involvement? Till what level? Because
capacity building only. Capacity building only, Ashadi. Because we don't have the reach, no? We can't go to the states. None of us can do that.
So we only do the zonal consultations, and then at that level we call DPOs and we give it to the DPOs. But I thought we'll make a document which will be a plan to those consultations, so that could be given to the central government and to the state governments to take it down to the Panchayati Raj departments. We could ask the DPOs to send it. That is, and this time we get a professional coordinator for this, who can do these things so that we don't have to.
Right.
So I'll put in for one coordinator and someone to help her, and one associate, and then I'll do this and I'll send it to all of you. If you have the time, you look, otherwise I'll just submit it.
Okay. Yeah.
No one has the time to do, that's why.
Yeah, no, somehow this year end becomes very cumbersome. Somehow, a lot of work suddenly comes in. I mean, and I really also have to learn to say no. I mean, involved in so many kinds of things that I am not able to manage. And my family also now needs a lot more support. When my mother was there, I could just, let things be. But now everyday decisions are there. My father, he's 83, so he's not doing too well. And then the loneliness is there, health issues are there. So having said that, सब मिला के हो नहीं पा रहा है मेरे से सब कुछ.
No, I know. There are too many. Also, I'm feeling that depression now set in, too much work and not really being able to do anything concrete.
Right.
So, and then, there are so many pressures. Last year, we had a huge USAID funding. Last year, we didn't do anything. This year now, the pressure is on the staff. And still, they also are in that same situation. And
right.
So, if you are responsible to someone and that this money has to be spent well and spent, that pressure mounts. So, that kind of thing is, we didn't know at that time that this would take place and we would be doing only Zooming, nothing else.
Right. And it's quite tiring, I'm realizing, this Zoom.
So these kind of things, so Stephanie had to remind me that there is a board meeting on the 1st for WEI, and I had forgotten completely. I said, okay, I'll be there. because everyone is changing their ways of functioning, all organizations.
So what time is this board meeting, Ashadi? Will you join us in the morning on the 1st?
I think this is only for board members. Niluka is there. And I think they are going to say...
No, I'm saying this e-course, are you joining us in the morning on Monday, on the 1st?
Yeah. Her meetings are at 8:30 at night.
Oh, okay.
30 to 10:30, when I'm very tired and they come on. But I think they have a tremendous amount of changes. That's what I'm telling Nilika. It's for anyone who's founded an organization, changes are good, but all of a sudden to be confronted with so many changes,
right?
You have to think also what will happen to the organization. Those who come up with ideas, that is not their primary motive. So, it's very, very tough for it. But they didn't get back to you, Amanda, about what has to be happening with the other UNFPA thing? Discussion?
No.
Not even me. Anastasia anyway is going on leave because she's pregnant.
Okay.
So they are losing 2 people to that. And the person who's heading the organization, she also is going on leave.
Oh, okay.
So that's why. Anyway, I was happy because the less work, the better. That's why I was not very happy, but Rebecca is pushing. I hadn't written it. Again, she wrote today, are you sending in something or no? First is the last date. So I'm sending that. Okay, then.
Okay, Ashadi. Bye. I'll speak to you later.
Yeah.